Hello there. Today I watched the new film Corner Office and now I want to tell you about it. Corner Office is a comedy featuring Jon Hamm as Orson. Orson arrives at his new job eager to work but quickly finds himself distracted by his coworkers in the office environment. Then, while trying to sort things out, Orson finds a hidden room. At first, he tries to ignore it, but soon finds himself at odds with his coworkers over the space. The film was written by Ted Kupper and Jonas Carlson, directed by Joachim Back. Stars Jon Hamm in the lead role with Danny Pudi, Sarah Gordon, Christopher Heyerdahl, and a few others as his fellow employees at the office. The story is a dark comedy of sorts that delves into the life of a crazy person. Orson is suffering from your classic case of delusions, and as the film progresses, it becomes more and more obvious that he is insane. It opens up with Orson narrating his life to the audience as if we were reading his life story. Orson arrives at the office, finds the space, and starts coming into conflict with his coworkers, and the whole time he continues to narrate, letting us in on all of his thoughts and feelings. Most of the humor comes from the mismatch between Hamm's narration and the reality that we witness on screen. Orson sees himself as a highly competent, intelligent, and creative person, but in reality, he is a bit of a klutz that can't perform without the right conditions. He belittles his coworkers and sees machinations behind every one of their actions. As the story progresses, his coworkers become increasingly disturbed by his actions and they escalate their attempts to remove him from their environment. We see Orson go to war with his office, and there's a lot of humor to be found in the situation, mostly in how ridiculous Orson and his thoughts are. Unfortunately, the story doesn't have anywhere to go and spends the entire time repeating versions of the same scenario. Someone at the office will see a little bit of value in Orson and he'll take that for granted, letting them in on his secret. He never realizes how he appears to other people, and when they try to tell him, he sees them as jealous or ignorant. It leads to friction between him and them until he eventually alienates himself from everyone in the office. By that point, the story has become completely predictable and the humor has long since worn thin. They needed to do some kind of emotional story underneath or find a different vein of humor to mine from. As it is, the story isn't very exciting after you've figured out the pattern, even if it does make sense. Cast-wise, the entire film falls on the back of Jon Hamm. Yes, there are other actors in the film, but they appear for very brief periods, and the only one that actually has a presence is Christopher Heyerdahl. Everyone else is a normal person creeped out by Orson's behavior. They don't get any other defining traits and they don't speak much. They just react in shock to Orson. Christopher Heyerdahl is playing a fairly typical boss as well. He isn't worried about problems unless they're going to make him look bad. He chastises Orson for his psychotic behavior, but lets him stay when he finds out how useful he is. Heyerdahl gets a little more screen time and dialogue, but not enough to stand out. Jon Hamm gets the vast majority of screen time in the film and does an amazing job of creating a fully realized crazy person. Orson is like all of your most annoying coworkers rolled into one, with just a dash of homeless crazy person tossed in for good measure. At the same time, Hamm's natural charisma oozes out and you can't help but want to see where this goes. In a lot of ways, this is Hamm's archetype, but he does it incredibly well. Orson stands out as exactly the type of person you wouldn't want to work with. Visually, this film and its journey are mundane. The entire story takes place in a run-down office building designed specifically to look like it's falling apart. The walls are a washed-out gray, the appliances are all old and out of date, and nothing in the place works. There are even lights flickering throughout the space. The outside looks like every other soulless corporation. The endless towering offices stretch into the heavens and the lot outside is filled with exact replicas of the same car. The one nice space in the film is the special room that Orson visits. It's an extremely fancy office made out of hardwood and filled with nice things. We don't see it very often, but the film goes out of its way to make that space feel like a respite from everything else. Most of the screen time is spent following Orson as he goes about his day and focusing on the micro expressions he makes in each moment. There isn't any action, there are few visual gags, and outside of the basic references to how awful office spaces are, there isn't anything in the background for you to pick out. Just a few months worth of this guy working at his office and silently judging the people around him. Sound-wise, the film is a lot more interesting. It has a scored track that follows each and every moment, and it only disappears during certain conversations for effect. From the first steps Orson takes into the office to the last minutes he spends there, we hear orchestral-style music. The music swells during high notes, it gets dangerous and eerie during tense moments. It reminded me a lot of Star Wars and the complete sound you get from a John Williams soundtrack. There aren't any tracks with vocals, but the tracks we do hear are complex and interesting pieces that fit well with the environment. They aren't the most original of songs, but they do sound great. The few times that the film doesn't use music, it's always because they're having a conversation and they don't want it to distract from the humor. During those conversations, you can usually hear the natural office sounds like the lights buzzing or the faucet dripping. It adds an authentic atmosphere to The Office and made me laugh at how well it fits with the company's image. Overall, Corner Office is a funny film that just didn't have anywhere to go after the first 40 minutes. Jon Hamm does a wonderful job creating Orson, the psychotic coworker from hell, and the soundtrack was great at making it feel like an epic journey. But outside of that, the film doesn't do anything meaningful with its time. The humor gets old quickly, the visual journey was well done but didn't have any standout scenes, and the story lacked excitement and content. If you want something light to laugh at, then Corner Office is great, but if you want anything more than that, you might end up disappointed. As for a rating, I give this film 6 out of 10, and remember, those are just my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Bye-bye.